Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, the 26th of June, and I'm calling this Kindness Friday. Now, all will be revealed because I did say, I think I put up one of the words on announcing it that it's addiction. So I don't know if many people will know, but this is International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. This day has been observed each year since about 1989. Now, this was suggested by a young friend, Danielle. It's quite a difficult one to talk about because I try and be as upbeat as I can on my live videos. The matter of drug abuse and illicit trafficking is far too vast a topic to even try to begin to deal with it in this short video. So I thought I would focus more on the need for kindness and compassion in the recovery from substance abuse and addiction to reduce the negative stigma. The information that I'm going to be talking about is by no means exhaustive. It's intended just to highlight what kindness and compassion can do in healing. Anyone, of course, who needs treatment for any kind of addiction, drug abuse or substance abuse should actually seek professional help. With the right support, help and support, medical professionals, charities, private drug treatments, which are expensive, of course, and alcohol treatment organisations. With that support and help, it is possible to get drug free and stay drug free. But it's not a simple process. It's a long process, and it needs dedication and commitment from the individual too. Treatments and strategies vary. They vary from talking therapies like CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, substitute drugs, detox, which helps cope with withdrawal symptoms, and self-help support groups and more. I think sometimes when we think of drug addicts, I worked with a charity for homeless many years ago, and I suppose growing up, if you were growing up in perhaps middle to upper class, or even working class, you maybe had a thought that if people are drug addicts, then they're just no use, they're not valuable people in society. But addiction hits everybody from all walks of life, and it can hit you any time. I remember in this charity there was a lovely young guy who I got speaking to, and he'd got hooked on heroin, and he was actually in his final year at university, about to graduate, and he went to a party, had one, I think, hit, and that was him. And really, he said it was very, very difficult. He was trying, but it's just so difficult for some people to stop. But rather than sort of focus on that, I want to talk about the role that kindness and compassion has in healing from addiction. Now, there's many types of addiction, as you know. There's alcohol, there's drugs, nicotine, gambling, eating disorders. There's so many. And all these addictions are harmful to the individual and to their families. And I think that's where, when we talk about kindness and compassion, sometimes families and friends have just maybe had enough and they don't know what to do. Addiction is the need for and the use of habit-forming substances, despite knowing that it's harmful. Individuals who are addicted, they will experience tolerance, which means that they need more and more of the substance to achieve the same effect. And if they don't get that, then they experience withdrawal symptoms. There's a social and mental impact on people who are addicted. The perceived stigma, as I've said, it can be that they're just worthless individuals. It can cause major harm to the individual's social life. They may or they will be discriminated against, and this will cause severe stress, and that will affect their mental and social health. Those abusing drugs or other substances can even feel pushed out of society, pushed out from those around them. They can often and will often end up losing touch with people around them, and that's even their family. This, of course, can lead to loneliness and isolation. And when this happens, they're then less likely to reach out or ask for help. And that then in turn leads to depression. They might also hide their abuse to avoid the stigma, because they don't want to feel, they feel ashamed, they want to avoid that. So when they avoid asking for help, that can and again lead to even more drug abuse and therefore further isolation. It's just a vicious cycle. And I think the problem sometimes is, having dealt with people who have had abuses in all sorts of forms, it's interesting that lots of people say, well, they just don't have the willpower. I have seen people even be free of drugs and for months and then start again. Now, it's very, very difficult to criticise and blame these people. It is a mental disease. It's a disease just like diabetes. But being a mental health one, it's much, much more difficult for people to understand. And of course, it's difficult for family and friends to deal with it. It's not just the shame and the stigma from people around them, but the people themselves, they feel as if they're deviants, feel as if they're abnormal, and this impacts on their self-esteem and their self-worth. So how do we reduce this stigma? Now, we're talking at the moment about not people in the sort of full throes of addiction, but the ones trying to recover. So when they're trying to recover, they need compassionate support. They need to be shown kindness. These people are vulnerable, so they need to be shown kindness. They need listened to and not judged. We need to see the individual for who they are and not what the drugs or the substances that they use. And of course, if we're dealing and helping, trying to support people who have addiction, we need to learn and find out as much information as possible about the drug dependency, how it works. We need to treat every individual with dignity and respect, and not to label them. It's so easy to label, oh, he's just mad on drugs, he's this, she's that. Not to label them. We need to change the negative attitudes to maybe more positive ones that are based on evidence. You need the actual facts around the abuse. Speak up if you see someone being mistreated because of their addiction. Now, what I found really helpful when I was dealing with people with addiction was sharing their own stories. Now, it's very difficult for me to say that, well, everyone can help people who have problems, no matter what they are. But I think that when you hear someone who's been through it and come out the other end and is helping people, they're perhaps more likely to be listened to because they can understand where the person's coming from. They can empathise. Now, one of the things when we think about drug abuse, we immediately think maybe of illegal drugs, cannabis, heroin, these sort of drugs. But actually, prescription drugs, particularly painkillers, these have become the most dominant drug addiction threat in the United States. And it's a growing problem in the UK. Now, some doctors and politicians warn that prescription drugs, such as tramadol, cocodamol, the painkillers, they are becoming as much, if not more, of a problem in the United Kingdom as illegal drugs. The concerns in the UK are actually backed up by the increasing number of patients overdosing on prescription drugs. There's much research and there's statistics available. It's too short a video to talk about all of them. But one example I looked at was in 1996, there was one fatal overdose from tramadol. By 2014, that number in England and Wales certainly, that had risen to 240. Now, no matter the number, even one is one too many. The problem, of course, with prescription drugs is that the individuals are told to take them by a trusted professional. Now, the individuals therefore assume they're safe, and of course many users don't recognise that they have a problem, or they're just prescription drugs. Now, of course, the medical professions will point out the effects. There's details on the packages, but then do we read all of these, or do we just accept the word of the trusted professional? It's understandable, but the effects are really just as bad, and they're growing as illegal drugs. Often, if you've suffered from one addiction, you can be maybe more susceptible to being addicted to prescription drugs. And there's some research that indicates maybe if family members suffer from addiction, then it could be that you've inherited genes which make you more likely to become addicted. But there's lots of research and lots of different views on that. You can't generalise, so as I say, it's it's too much to talk about in this short video. But if you've suffered from childhood trauma, whether that's physical, sexual, emotional, violence, or losing a loved one, you may turn to substance abuse as a way of coping. I want to come back to talking really about the role that kindness plays in healing from addiction. What can help is to read about the experience of those who have suffered from addiction, and I found it very interesting talking to people who have suffered from this. I think it's all very well to say this is easy. It is not easy. One person who was treated for addiction, he went on to treat many other individuals, and what was important for these individuals who were suffering was that they accepted and listened to this person because he understood. There's this feeling that you're powerless, and they need the correct information to be given to them so that they can make good decisions and realise that they're not powerless. It's important that we don't make these few people feel powerless. But above all, what this person found when he was treating people with addiction, that kindness played a vital role in the healing process. And it's kindness that most of his patients and his clients remembered more than anything else. Someone who's gone through addiction knows what the drug addict is going through and the challenges that they face. One young person I remember speaking to who abused drugs was often, as I say, able to stop. And I could never understand, if you stop, why do you start again? And I remember speaking to them, and there's kind of no correct answer to that. They don't know, maybe they hit another problem and therefore they just reverted back. It's very difficult to know what is going through someone else's head. But someone who's gone through it can empathise with the anxiety and the uncertainty of the recovery process. And I remember saying to one chap who'd gone through this, I thought he would be excellent at helping others. He was just a young person, and I thought, other young people would listen to him. And I said to him, you would be ideal to help others going through this. And he turned to me and he said, I can only help others once I have helped myself. Addiction's a disease, just like any other medical condition. But I think that's what's difficult, because it's to do with the brain. And if you're going through a physical condition, you're more likely perhaps to say, right, I'm happy to talk about it. And of course, we're back to this. People don't want to talk about mental health problems. And actually, when the person's going through this, they feel that they're looked down on, they're talked down to, and this can cause even more harm to them. Addicts have already got a negative view of themselves, and they often suffer from other mental health disorders. It can be a tall order for family and friends to understand what they're going through. And many addicts they've caused damage to their relationships, to their friendships, and their finances. They kind of hit rock bottom. And due to this, there are many differing views from their family and friends that leave them alone. kick them out, use tough love, tough love. Why are you helping somebody who can't help themselves? Very, very difficult phrases to hear. And of course, that just alienates the person further. It's a difficult one, and I don't know the answer, certainly not in this short video. And I know that I've tried to help when I was working with these people, but you do get the feeling that they also need to help themselves. So it needs to be kind of on the road to recovery that we're talking about kindness and compassion. When an addict is trying to get free and recover, it's not the time to blame or criticise. It's not a time to look back and focus on, oh, what happened in the past. It just makes them feel worse. It reduces their self-esteem and their self-worth. Focus on looking forward. When an addict is in recovery, they need unconditional love and support and kindness during this time than at any other time. Remember, by the time they are in recovery, their mental, emotional and physical health will already be damaged, and they will feel very low and depressed. They will think back, they themselves, although you're trying to help them focus on the future, they will look back on the people they hurt. They'll worry about whether they can defeat their addiction. They feel they've just got no control over it, so they need to be empowered. And that can only be done by giving them relevant information, educate them with the facts so that they can be in control of their recovery. Now, I remember working with addicts many years ago that I thought maybe telling them or asking them about a friend who died from an overdose, that just doesn't make any difference to them. It doesn't hit home. I suppose in a sense that we look round in this pandemic and there are so many people saying, well, it hasn't affected me, therefore I'm not going to bother. It doesn't seem to matter that people are dying from it. So we need to kind of turn that mindset around. Addicts do want to feel accepted and not made to feel like a bad person. They need treated with warmth from the proper therapists, professionals, family and friends, and this will help them on their journey of recovery. Speaking of, I suppose again repeating that, having spoken to people in the recovery journey, they say that it makes it easier when they get the straightforward information given to them. And they've got to be in that right mindset and with a kindness and compassion. I know that for some there's just no recovery, but even if one person is helped through their journey, then it is worthwhile. Now, I suppose I'm going to affirm here that we need to affirm if I'm helping them, it's like I feel valued, I feel worthy. These are the kind of phrases that we need to instill into people. And the breathing exercise, of course, deep breathing to calm them, because there can be a lot of anger in these individuals. Now, every individual is different, but I have today, it's an addiction meditation. It actually was written by a person suffering from drug abuse and who was going through a journey of recovery. And this helped them, and I hope that it does help others. And I call this the STAR meditation. And it was quite poignant because this chap had suffered a lot, and sadly it just was all too much for him. So this is quite a poignant story, but I was left with the meditation that he used, and I hope that it does help other people. Now, it's been a difficult Friday morning, and I'm sorry that I hope just talking about kindness and compassion has helped, but it is a difficult topic, and difficult topics need to be discussed. So on the STAR, I call it the STAR breath process meditation. And the phrase he used was, this was 2002, this was written, and he, in his mind, it was the start of a poem, and it was to make the break and to see springtime come. So we need to sit again, feel confident, and we try and get, he said he used to sit actually just comfortably, but you can lie down and close your eyes. And I want you to close your eyes now and take a deep breath in and just imagine an indigo sky full of silver stars. So you're looking up at this dark indigo sky and it's full of silvery stars. Now I want you to choose one of the stars just for you. Once you have found your star, you will use it every time you carry out this star breath meditation. Now choose the colour that you need for your star, because this is the colour that will help heal. Now, still looking at the indigo sky and your star, I want you to imagine switching it on so that it beams down. A ray of the colour that you've chosen floods you with light. The ray will be broad and powerful. You see it filling the air around you. The colour and the radiation it's just flooding all around you. Breathe in for the count of 3 and hold, and then exhale. Breathe in again, inhaling the colour as it floods through your mind and body. Actually visualise and see yourself pulling the colour out of the air, in through your nose, and watch it flow into your mind and body. Breathe in again through your nose and hold the colour you've chosen in your mind and body. Hold for the count of 3 and then exhale through your mouth for the count of 3. Now repeat the pulling in of the colour into your mind. Feel it flood your mind and body. It's your colour, it's your star, this beautiful star that is yours and will help healing. Breathe in again through your nose and hold. Imagine that colour invading your mind and body. And when you exhale, let tension and anxiety go. This completes the star breath meditation. And you can slowly open your eyes and just breathe again. The deep breath, remember, and then exhale. Now there are various colours one of the colours that the person who wrote this meditation said that helped him was lavender. And lavender is the colour of healing. It's also the colour that you can use to, it's kind of it works on the brain centres, and it helps with, or he found that it helped with drug addiction, his addiction. And drug addiction, he left me with the phrase, drug addiction is the suicide of the soul. This was a very close friend, as you can imagine, and it's quite poignant for me to talk about. So at the moment I was doing my red door, blue door. But thank you very much for watching. It's been, we need to feel now uplifted. So I want you to say, I feel valued, I feel worthy, and enjoy today. It's been very wet up here. I think the rain, we needed it after yesterday's sun. Yesterday was beautiful, but we need the rain to water the flowers and everything. I'm sorry if the meditation there was interrupted a bit, but we did have a lorry outside doing various noises, screeching noises. I hope it didn't interrupt too much of your thoughts, but try that meditation again. And no matter what addiction, it could be anything that affects you, overeating, alcohol, your nicotine, drugs, anything at all, and of course prescription drugs. Please be wary and ask your professional medical people for help if you don't understand the effects that even prescription drugs can have. So on a lighter note, we have to say we need to give everybody a virtual hug because we're going into the weekend, and I'm back on Monday at 10 o'clock. I will be posting up whether I should be continuing these for 3 days a week. I thought maybe perhaps when I start middle to end of July, I might do the meditations or do the videos, the live videos, once a week, perhaps one evening a week. But we can see, and with your help, and tell me what you would like, please enjoy today, and we'll have in fact, post up or private message me with a topic you would like to discuss. So I'm not sure that I want to thank Danielle for that topic. It was a difficult one, but we have to talk about difficult topics as well. So enjoy the weekend, have a great weekend, and virtual hugs to everybody. Bye for now.